Welcome back, and today I'm going to make peanut M&M cookies, and I got some festive peanut M&Ms depending on what holiday. You can get them in different colors or you can use the traditional ones. Now I ended up with 2 packages. Each package is 10 ounces and I wanted a couple cups. So I have a few M&Ms left over for munching on later. So let's get started with our dry ingredients. Okay, so first I'm going to use 2 1/4 cups of flour. Now when measuring out flour, you want to level it off, and I use the back of a butter knife. So that's 1. 2, and I have a 1/4 cup measuring cup. Okay, and then we need a teaspoon of baking soda, and make sure that it's baking soda and not baking powder because it does make a difference. When doing baking soda, you also want to level it off, and I use the opening for that. So 1 teaspoon of the baking soda. And then we're going to just do a dash of salt. Measure it out over here. And then I'm going to take a fork and kind of pre-mix it up a little. Hope everybody's having a good day. I know I am, because I'm doing homemade cookies, and they always taste delicious and make the house smell wonderful. All right, so let's set that aside, and now we're going to go and start doing our butter and sugar. So on the butter, we need 1 cup of butter. On each stick of butter, it's a 1/2 cup. So a 1/2 cup and a 1/2 cup is 1 cup. And I'm going to, I let the butter sit on the counter a little bit, but not for too long. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just cut it up because it'll make it easier when we go to mix it later. And by the way, I have preheated my oven to 375, and we are doing a single batch of cookies today. Sometimes I do a double batch. This is a single batch. And I always use real butter in my recipes, because it does make a difference. Makes it taste amazing. All right. I'll need another knife for leveling off my sugar because that one has butter on it now. All right, so we're gonna use first white sugar or granulated sugar, and we need 3/4 cup. So I'm gonna scoop it up here, and then I'm gonna level it off. Okay, so now on my brown sugar, you have to kind of just like scoop it in. Now I put it in a container because it's easier, but you can use it straight out of the bag. But for me, this is easier, so you might want to try that. And then you have to pack your brown sugar in till it's level. And pack it really hard, like when you were a kid and you were playing in the sandbox and you wanted to make a sandcastle, and you pack that in. So that's how hard you have to pack it in, and then you'll see when it comes out, well, now it fell apart, but it did look like when you're doing a sandcastle. All right, so that's these ingredients, and let's set this aside. And then we're going to go ahead and do 2 eggs. 1, 2. And now I'm going to go wash my hands. I'll be right back. Okay, so I always like to measure my extracts into my eggs because it's all liquid. All right, so I'm going to use some pure vanilla extract, and I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, so there's my vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon, and now I'm going to use some pure almond extract, 1/2 teaspoon. All right, now I'm going to take and just kind of scramble this up. Oh, that almond extract smells wonderful. When I use when I do stuff with nuts, I love to use the almond extract mixed with the vanilla extract. Gives it a different flavor. It makes it very nice. I'm trying to clean up here as I go along a little bit. All right, so before we go over to the mixer, let's review our ingredient list. So we have 2 1/4 cups of flour, and I have 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and I have a dash of salt. I have 1 cup of softened butter. I have 3/4 cup of granulated sugar or white sugar, and 3/4 cup of brown sugar packed, and then a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla and a 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract, and we have the 2 eggs, and then we have a couple cups of the peanut M&Ms. All right, so let's go over to the mixer and start mixing everything up. Okay, so for cookie dough, you're going to want to use a dough hook. You don't want to use this one. This would be good for cakes and things like that. And you for sure do not want to use a wire whisk because this is for like whipped cream, egg whites, and sauces, that sort of stuff. So we put our dough hook on. And I always put the splash guard on, otherwise things just go flying because this mixer is so powerful. All right, let me see if I can move that in. Alrighty, and let's get this mixed up. Okay, let's make sure nothing's sticking on the sides. And I do want to note that the longer you leave your butter sitting on the counter for, the softer it's going to get. Mine was softened a little, but not that much, so it's going to take me a little bit longer. I just got back to the house, and I probably should have left it out while I was running my errands, but I forgot. So it might take just a tad longer. Okay, now we're good. So we've creamed together our butter and our brown sugar. I'm just going to kind of scrape the sides a little. Now you don't want to melt the butter in the microwave and then pour it in here because it's going to change your texture of your cookie completely. Now one time I went ahead and I put the butter in the oven, which I thought was just going to be for a second or so, and I thought it would just get it just soft enough. It was a disaster. Big cleaning nightmare. Would not recommend that at all. So you just have to kind of be patient. Put the butter on the counter for a little bit. That's the best bet. And I did do that for a little bit, but not quite long enough. So that's why it took me just a little bit longer. Now we've added our eggs and our extract, and we'll blend this up. We're going to want to scrape the sides and the bottom. This is smelling really good with the vanilla and the almond mixed together. What a wonderful combination. It smells so good. Okay, so now that's mixed up, and we're going to start adding our flour. Just going to have to move this to the side here. And we're just going to do a few scoops at a time. Our flour and our baking soda and salt. So we'll just do a little bit at a time here. I'm starting out slow so that the flour doesn't go flying, and then I'll increase my speed. Scrape the sides. I still have some flour that I have to add. I'm just gonna get this mixed up first, and then add the rest. The rest of the flour. Okay, time to scrape down all the sides again. out and see how we're doing. There's a little bit of stuff stuck to the sides, but not too bad. Okay, we're going to mix it just a tad more. Sure that I get all my batter off of the dough hook. Okay, that's a heavy mixer. All right, let me go get this mixer out of the way. Okay. So we're going to mix, I'm also going to be scraping, making sure I have all the stuff off the sides and off the bottom. So we're going to be mixing the peanut M&Ms into the cookie dough. Now, I didn't do it with the mixer because then the peanut M&Ms will get broke up, so I don't want that. So I'm just going to pour in some at a time, and then I'm going to, I mean, there isn't one broken one already, just out of the package that way. But I'm going to mix this up by hand. It's nice that there's a handle, it makes it easier. Okay, now we're going to do the rest. One of my favorite candies is M&Ms, actually. I like almost all the flavors. I think I like all the flavors, actually. Do I have a favorite? I can't choose. I like them all. All right. This is mixing up really well. Okay, so that looks pretty well mixed. So now we're going to go over to the cookie sheets and start putting them on the cookie sheets. Okay, so I'm going to use a cookie scooper, which is really handy. So this one's like a medium-sized one. And then I'm also going to show you with 2 spoons, because you can also use like 2 tablespoons, 2 teaspoons, depending how you want to, how big you want your cookies. So let me kind of go over here so you can see me. This is in the way, scooping it out. So I'm gonna, I need to make sure that I have space between these cookies. And I'm gonna try to make them all uniform, because then they'll cook at the same rate of speed. I'm going to just continue to do this. I am going to do one with the spoons, just to give you an idea. Now some people, they might say, oh, I know how to do this. Why are you showing? Not everybody, this could be someone's millionth cookie they've made, or it could be their first cookie. So I want to show for beginners too. All right, so that's simple. And then I dip it in the water just because it's helpful. So I'm going to continue, and I'm going to use my cookie scooper, and I'm going to continue to fill the trays with cookies. Okay, so I got the cookies all on the trays, and I got 29 cookies for a single batch, and I'm going to put them in the oven at 375. Oven has been preheated completely, and it's going to take roughly about 10 minutes. It's a humid day today. Humidity seems to affect my oven personally, so we will keep a close eye on it and kind of give it a peek halfway through. Okay, so let's check. All right, so these are still cooking. I'm probably going to move the bottom ones to the top and the top ones to the bottom. And then for some reason my top oven is cooking faster, I think because heat rises, so I have a double oven. And so those are about ready to pull. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those and then switch the other ones. All right, so the house smells delicious. I pulled all the cookies and they're going to cool down. They have a nice brown. You want to have them like a nice brown to them. And I want to mention, while these are cooling down, that if you like this video, I have a couple other videos that I think you would enjoy for this holiday season. I have jelly bean cookies, which is a totally different recipe than this one. And for many other holidays, I have butter sugar cookies, sprinkles, part 1 and part 2. And that's when you make the dough and you can roll out and do whatever shape you want. So it could be for any holiday or just circles for just because you want some butter cookies. So check out those other videos too. We'll let these cool down and then I'll do the taste test, but I will do the taste test with the cookie warm because that's my favorite way to have cookies, and that's why I like to make homemade cookies. Okay, so we can start taking these off of the cookie sheet. You need a nice sharp spatula. That looks like a good one for a taste test. So I'm going to keep on doing this and then they'll cool down. But I don't want mine to cool down too much because I want to have it warm. So I'll keep on doing this and I'll be back in a minute. All right, so these have been cooling off a little bit. And I just want to point out that each cookie is slightly different than the other cookie because some of them have more, just because of the way things get stirred in, some have more candies than others. So I'm going to grab this one, like I told you I was going to, and we'll do the taste test on that one. All right. Very moist. Those peanut M&Ms soften up and the peanuts are softer. So good. It's almost like there's like peanut butter in there, but there's not peanut butter. These are regular peanut M&Ms, but because they kind of melt it. Oh, this is so good. And the almond extract. The almond and the vanilla. What a wonderful blend with the peanut M&Ms. Absolutely delicious. House smells wonderful. Definitely going to have a few of these, that is for sure. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. For those of you who subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. And maybe invite a friend to watch a video and maybe they'll subscribe as well. That would be awesome. And for those of you who subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.